Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the cool, autumnal air, the smell of decaying foliage and spiced pumpkin lattes permeated the surroundings as Lucas meticulously readied himself in front of the bedroom mirror. Adorned in a form-fitting, immaculate white gown, he meticulously primped his attire. It skimmed his slender figure, ending just above his knees, while the vibrant red heels added flair and some much-needed height. Perfection, he whispered with confidence, admiring the transformation. The nurse's uniform, he proudly thought, was an ingenious disguise that allowed him to celebrate his inner joy without worry. Halloween, he knew, granted him the precious freedom to live unapologetically as Adeline, his cherished persona, without the looming dread of scrutiny or exposure. His hair, skillfully curled in gentle waves, rested elegantly around his contoured face, showcasing his meticulous makeup application. Every detail was designed to craft the illusion of delicate femininity. The final touch was a pair of false eyelashes that made his eyes seem wider and more expressive. With a deep breath, he grabbed his small purse and headed out the door. The Halloween party was being held at his friend Mark's house, just a few blocks away. As he walked, the click of his heels on the sidewalk filled him with a mixture of excitement and trepidation.
"You've got this,"
he whispered to himself, straightening his posture and adopting the confident stride he'd practiced countless times in the privacy of his room. The sound of music and laughter grew louder as Lucas approached Mark's house. Jack-o'-lanterns lined the front porch, their flickering grins seeming to wink at him conspiratorially. He paused at the door, took one last steadying breath, and knocked. The door swung open, revealing Mark dressed as a zombie, complete with tattered clothes and impressively gruesome makeup. His eyes widened as he took in Lucas's costume.
"Wow, you look amazing,"
Mark exclaimed, stepping aside to let him in.
"I almost didn't recognize you. Come on in, the party's just getting started."
Lucas smiled, pitching his voice slightly higher as he replied,
"Thanks. You make a pretty convincing zombie yourself."
As he entered the living room, heads turned. The space was filled with an eclectic mix of costumes. Superheroes mingled with monsters, and fictional characters chatted with historical figures. Lucas felt a surge of confidence as he noticed admiring glances from several partygoers.
"Can I get you a drink?"
Mark asked, gesturing towards the kitchen.
"Sure, thanks,"
Lucas replied, following his friend. In the kitchen, he accepted a red cup filled with punch, sipping it carefully to avoid smudging his lipstick. As the night wore on, Lucas found himself relaxing into his role. He chatted and laughed with other guests, many of whom complimented his costume. No one seemed to suspect that the pretty nurse was actually Lucas in disguise.
"All right, everyone!"
Mark's voice boomed over the music.
"It's time to judge the costume contest. Line up along the wall if you want to participate."
Lucas hesitated for a moment, then joined the line of contestants. He stood between a werewolf and a mermaid, feeling a mix of nervousness and exhilaration. As Mark and a few other designated judges moved down the line, examining each costume, Lucas felt his heart racing.
"And the winner is..."
Mark paused for dramatic effect.
"Our stunning nurse! Come on up and claim your prize!"
The room erupted in cheers and applause as Lucas made his way to the front, a blend of pride and panic swirling in his chest. Mark handed him a small trophy and a gift card, congratulating him enthusiastically.
"Speech!"
someone called from the crowd, and others quickly took up the chant. Lucas cleared his throat, his voice slightly shaky as he spoke.
Thank you all so much. I'm truly honored. This costume was a labor of love, and I'm thrilled you all appreciate it.
As the cheers died down, Mark's girlfriend, Emma, approached with a camera. We've got to get some photos of the winner! Come on, everyone gather round! Lucas felt a bead of sweat form on his brow as people crowded around him. He struck a pose, trying to appear natural and confident as the camera flashed. With each picture, his anxiety grew. What if someone recognized him? What if this moment of triumph led to his deepest secret being exposed? As Emma reviewed the photos on her camera, Lucas heard a sharp intake of breath. He turned to see his childhood friend, Olivia, staring at him with wide eyes. Lucas? She whispered, low enough that only he could hear. His heart plummeted. Olivia, That birthmark on your neck, she continued, her voice a mix of surprise and dawning understanding. I'd recognize it anywhere. But how? Why? Lucas felt the room spin around him. This was it. His carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down. He grabbed Olivia's arm and pulled her into a quiet corner of the room.
Please, Olivia,
he pleaded, his voice cracking.
Don't say anything. I can explain.
Olivia's expression softened. Lucas, I'm not going to out you, but is this why you've been so distant lately? Have you been hiding this from everyone? Lucas nodded, feeling tears prick at the corners of his eyes. I've been living a double life. When I'm not Lucas, I'm Adeline. It's who I really am, but I've been too scared to tell anyone. Olivia placed a comforting hand on his arm. Oh, Lucas, you shouldn't have to hide who you are. Your friends love you. We'll support you no matter what.
You really think so?
Lucas asked, hope blossoming in his chest. I know so, Olivia replied firmly. Look, why don't we go somewhere more private and talk about this? Then, if you're comfortable, we can tell the others together. Lucas nodded, grateful for Olivia's understanding. They slipped away from the party and into Mark's study, closing the door behind them. For the next hour, Lucas poured out his heart, explaining his journey of self-discovery and the fear that had kept him silent for so long. Olivia listened attentively, offering support and asking thoughtful questions. As their conversation drew to a close, she asked, So, what do you want to do now? Are you ready to share this with our friends? Lucas took a deep breath, considering the question. The thought of revealing his true self was terrifying, but the weight of secrecy had become unbearable. I think I'm ready, he said finally. Will you be there with me? Of course. Olivia smiled, squeezing his hand. Let's do this. They returned to the party, where their absence had been noticed. Mark approached them, concern evident on his face.
Everything okay? You two disappeared for a while.
Lucas exchanged a look with Olivia, who nodded encouragingly. Actually, Mark, there's something I need to tell everyone. Could you gather the close friends? Puzzled but obliging, Mark rounded up their core group of friends. Soon, Lucas found himself standing before a small crowd of familiar faces, all watching him expectantly. His heart pounded in his chest, but Olivia's steady presence beside him gave him strength.
First of all,
he began, his voice trembling slightly,
I want to thank you all for being such wonderful friends. Your support means the world to me, which is why this has been so difficult to keep from you."
He paused, taking a deep breath before continuing.
"The truth is, this costume isn't just a costume for me. It's a part of who I am. When I'm not Lucas, I'm Adeline. I'm transgender, and I've been living as Adeline in secret for a while now."
A hush fell over the group as they processed this information. Lucas felt exposed, vulnerable, waiting for their reactions with bated breath. To his surprise, it was Mark who spoke first.
"Lucas, or Adeline, if you prefer, thank you for trusting us with this. It must have been really hard to keep this secret."
Emma stepped forward, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "We love you, no matter what name or pronouns you use. You're our friend, and that's what matters." One by one, his friends expressed their support and acceptance. There were hugs, words of encouragement, and even a few jokes about Lucas, now Adeline, having the best makeup skills in the group. As the initial shock wore off, the questions began. How long had she known? Was she planning to transition fully? What could they do to support her? Adeline answered each query honestly, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders with every word. "I've known for years," she explained, "but I was so afraid of losing you all that I kept it hidden. I've been living as Adeline whenever I could, but always in secret. Always afraid of being discovered."
"Well, no more hiding," declared Mark firmly. "From now on, you be who you are, whenever you want. We've got your back."
The party resumed, but with a different energy. Adeline found herself the center of attention, not for her costume, but for her bravery in sharing her truth. Friends approached her throughout the night, offering words of support or simply treating her as they always had, a treasured friend. As the evening wore on, Adeline felt a profound shift within herself. The fear and shame that had plagued her for so long began to dissolve, replaced by a sense of acceptance and belonging she had never thought possible. Near midnight, as the party began to wind down, Adeline found a quiet moment to herself. She stepped out onto the back porch, the cool night air a welcome relief after the warmth of the crowded house. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a soft glow over the backyard. She closed her eyes, taking in the sounds of the night, the rustle of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the fading notes of music from inside. When she opened them again, she saw Olivia approaching, 2 cups of hot cocoa in hand. "Thought you might need this," Olivia said, offering one of the steaming mugs. Adeline accepted it gratefully, wrapping her hands around the warm ceramic. "Thank you," she said softly. "Not just for the cocoa, but for everything. I don't know if I would have had the courage to do this without you." Olivia leaned against the porch railing, her expression thoughtful. "You know, I always sensed there was something you were holding back. I'm glad you finally felt safe enough to share it with us." They stood in companionable silence for a moment, sipping their cocoa and gazing out into the night. Finally, Adeline spoke. "I keep waiting to wake up and find out this was all a dream, that I'll be back to hiding, back to being afraid." "It's real," Olivia assured her. "And tomorrow, and the day after that, and every day moving forward, we'll be here to remind you that you're loved and accepted, just as you are." Adeline felt tears welling up in her eyes, but for once, they were tears of joy and relief. "I never imagined it could be like this," she admitted. "I always thought that if people knew the real me, they'd reject me." "Give us some credit," Olivia chuckled. We're your friends because of who you are, not what you wear or how you identify. This doesn't change that. If anything, it just means we get to know you even better." As if on cue, the back door opened, and Mark poked his head out. "Hey, you two! We're about to cut the cake! Come on in!" Adeline and Olivia shared a smile before heading back inside. The kitchen was crowded with their friends, all gathered around a large cake decorated with Halloween motifs. As Adeline entered, a cheer went up. "There's our costume contest winner!" Emma called out. "We saved you the first slice!" As the cake was distributed and conversations flowed around her, Adeline felt a sense of belonging she had never experienced before. These people, her friends, knew her true self now, and they still welcomed her with open arms. The rest of the night passed in a blur of laughter, heartfelt conversations, and promises of support. As the party finally wound down in the early hours of the morning, Adeline found herself reluctant to leave. This night marked a turning point in her life, and she wanted to savor every moment. Mark approached her as she was gathering her things. "Hey," he said softly. "I just wanted to say again how proud I am of you, and I want you to know that my house is always open to you, whether you come as Lucas or Adeline." Adeline felt a lump form in her throat. "Thank you," she managed to say. "That means more than you know." As she stepped out into the cool pre-dawn air, Adeline felt as though she was walking into a new world. The streets were quiet, the sky just beginning to lighten with the promise of a new day. Her heels clicked against the pavement, a sound that had once filled her with anxiety but now felt like a triumphant rhythm. When she reached her own front door, Adeline paused, looking back in the direction of Mark's house. She thought about the journey that had led her to this moment, the years of hiding, the fear, the loneliness, and then she thought about the acceptance and love she had experienced tonight. As she unlocked her door and stepped inside, Adeline made a promise to herself. No more hiding, no more fear. From this day forward, she would live as her true self, surrounded by the love and support of her friends. She kicked off her heels and made her way to her bedroom, her mind already spinning with plans. There were so many things to consider: telling her family, thinking about medical options, updating her wardrobe. But for now, all of that could wait. Adeline caught sight of herself in the mirror, her makeup slightly smudged, her brown hair a bit disheveled, but her eyes shining with a newfound confidence. She smiled at her reflection, truly seeing herself for the first time. "Hello, Adeline," she whispered. "It's nice to finally meet you." As she prepared for bed, removing her costume and carefully wiping away her makeup, Adeline felt a sense of peace settle over her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she would face them as her authentic self, with the knowledge that she was loved and supported. She fell asleep as the first rays of sunlight began to peek through her curtains, dreaming of the future that now lay open before her, a future full of possibility, acceptance, and the freedom to be herself. The days and weeks that followed the Halloween party were a whirlwind of change for Adeline. With the support of her friends, she began the process of living openly as herself. Each step, though sometimes challenging, felt like a breath of fresh air after years of suffocation. Her first day back at work, as Adeline was a mix of nerves and excitement. She had spoken with her supervisors beforehand, and they had been surprisingly supportive, assuring her that the company had policies in place to protect transgender employees. Still, as she walked into the office wearing a modest blue blouse and black skirt, she couldn't help but feel every eye upon her. To her relief, Most of her co-workers were kind and respectful. There were a few awkward moments and some well-intentioned but misguided questions. But overall, the day went better than she could have hoped. By the end of the week, it felt almost normal to be Adeline at work, with most people adapting quickly to her new name and pronouns. Outside of work, Adeline threw herself into embracing her true identity. She went shopping with Emma and Olivia, building a wardrobe that reflected her personal style. They spent hours in dressing rooms, laughing and offering opinions on different outfits. For the first time, Adeline felt truly comfortable in the clothes she was trying on, no longer constrained by the need to maintain a masculine appearance. One particularly memorable afternoon, they found themselves in a small boutique, surrounded by racks of colorful dresses. Adeline's eyes were drawn to a deep green wrap dress with a subtle floral pattern. With encouragement from her friends, she tried it on, emerging from the dressing room with a shy smile.
"Oh, Adeline!" Olivia gasped. "You look stunning!"
Emma nodded in agreement.
"That color is perfect on you. You have to get it."
Looking at herself in the mirror, Adeline felt a surge of joy. The dress hugged her curves in all the right places, and the color brought out the warmth in her brown hair. For perhaps the first time in her life, she felt truly beautiful.
"I think you're right," she said, twirling to see the dress from all angles. "This is definitely coming home with me." As weeks turned into months, Adeline found herself growing more confident in her identity. She started hormone therapy under the care of a supportive doctor and began to notice subtle changes in her body and emotions. The process was slow, but each small change felt like a victory. Her friends continued to be her rock throughout the transition. They celebrated her milestones, offered shoulders to cry on during tough days, and fiercely defended her against any negativity they encountered. Mark, in particular, became one of her strongest advocates. He organized a trans awareness workshop at their workplace, educating their colleagues about gender identity and how to be supportive allies. Adeline was moved to tears when she saw how many of her coworkers voluntarily attended, eager to learn how they could better support her and other transgender individuals. One crisp autumn day, almost a year after the Halloween party that had changed everything, Adeline found herself back in Mark's backyard. This time, it wasn't for a costume party, but for a small gathering to celebrate her rebirth day, marking 1 year since she had come out to her friends. The yard was decorated with twinkling lights and colorful streamers. A banner hung between 2 trees, reading, "Happy Rebirth Day, Adeline," in glittering letters. As she looked around at the smiling faces of her friends, Adeline felt overwhelmed with gratitude. She wore the green dress she had bought on that shopping trip months ago, her brown hair now longer and styled in soft waves. As she mingled with her guests, accepting hugs and well wishes, she caught sight of her reflection in a window. The person looking back at her was confident, happy, and unquestionably herself. As the evening wore on, Mark called for everyone's attention. "I'd like to propose a toast," he said, raising his glass. "To Adeline, our brave, beautiful friend. You've shown us all what it means to live authentically, and we're so proud of you. To Adeline!" "To Adeline!" the group echoed, raising their glasses. Adeline felt tears prick at her eyes as she looked around at the circle of friends who had become her chosen family. "Thank you all," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't have done this without you. You've shown me what true acceptance and love look like, and I'm grateful for each and every one of you." As the party continued around her, Adeline took a moment to reflect on the journey of the past year. From the terrified person hiding behind a Halloween costume to the confident woman she was today,
The transformation had been profound. Yet, in many ways, nothing had changed at all. She was still the same person, with the same hopes, dreams, and quirks. The only difference was that now, she could be that person openly and without fear. The future still held challenges, she knew. There would be difficult conversations with family members, potential obstacles in her career, and the ongoing process of physical transition. But standing here, surrounded by love and acceptance, Adeline felt ready to face whatever came her way. As the night drew to a close and guests began to leave, Olivia approached Adeline with a small, wrapped package. "I have something for you," she said, handing over the gift. Adeline carefully unwrapped it to reveal a delicate silver necklace with a butterfly pendant. "It's beautiful," she breathed, running her finger over the intricate design. "I thought it was fitting," Olivia explained. "Like a butterfly. You've gone through a transformation, but you were always beautiful, even when you were still in your cocoon." Adeline hugged her friend tightly, overcome with emotion. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." As she fastened the necklace around her neck, Adeline felt a sense of completion. The butterfly pendant rested just below her collarbone, a constant reminder of her journey and the strength she had found along the way. The last of the guests departed, leaving Adeline to help Mark and Emma clean up. As they worked, conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and inside jokes. It struck Adeline how normal it all felt, just a group of friends, enjoying each other's company. When everything was tidy, Adeline prepared to leave. At the door, Mark pulled her into a warm hug. "I'm so glad we got to celebrate you today," he said. "You know you're always welcome here, right?" Adeline nodded, feeling a lump form in her throat. "I know. Thank you for being such an amazing friend." As she walked home under the starry sky, Adeline felt a profound sense of peace. The journey to self-acceptance had been long and often difficult, but standing here now, she knew it had been worth every step. She thought back to that Halloween night, to the fear and uncertainty she had felt. If she could go back and tell her past self anything, it would be this: be brave. Trust in the love of your friends. Your true self is beautiful, and accepting her will bring you more joy than you can imagine. Arriving home, Adeline paused at her front door, looking up at the moon. She took a deep breath, savoring the crisp night air and the feeling of being truly, completely herself. "Thank you," she whispered to the universe, to her friends, to herself. Then she stepped inside, ready to embrace whatever the future might bring, secure in the knowledge that she was finally living as her authentic self. As she prepared for bed that night, Adeline caught sight of herself in the mirror. The butterfly necklace glinted in the soft light, a symbol of her transformation. She smiled at her reflection, recognizing the person she saw there as the one she had always been inside. With a contented sigh, she slipped under the covers, looking forward to the days ahead. Tomorrow was a new day, full of possibilities, and Adeline was ready to face it as her true self, surrounded by the love and support of her chosen family.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!